writing has always been the obsessed part of me, right? I've been kind of writing to myself reminders. That's really what the writing is, and a lot of people, I don't know if they know that, but um, that's what it is. So it's like these incredibly, to me, true ideas that just come to my brain, and then I just try to put them onto the screen, I guess, as quickly as possible, because that's when they're most real. And so, yeah, where does it come from? It's just this voice in my head that always knew that I had this obsession and had this energy I wanted to share, and that's what it's been since day one. Well, the story with the animations was the the content was always about writing and still is to me. And those animations started with, my written posts. I turned my best post into animation. But what you're asking is what I think about all day. There are these opportunities, especially on social media, about business or anything, where you have these moments to create something new that didn't exist before. And someone goes and creates it, and then everybody starts doing it, right? And that's how you know you created something new, is when everybody starts copying it, I think. And so for me, like, I am very flexible with mediums for obsession and for the ideas I want to share, right? It's like I don't care whether it's writing or I really don't. I don't care whether it's writing or whether it's video or whether it's podcasts. All I want to do is take my ideas and spread them to as many people as I can, and with the right format, the right energy behind them. And yeah, so that's how and right now I'm kind of waiting for the next one a little bit, right? Like last year, I rode that trend of animations hard, but I think a common theme around people who are obsessed is reinvention, and that is how these people really reach the top. Is they ride these waves of reinvention, and so I think about it all the time. It's like, what are these new things? And usually they start very, very small, and they're almost impossible to notice, but someone notices them and takes advantage, and those are the people who create these new categories and get these insane results.
I was actually meeting somebody here in New York many years ago, and she was a girl. She was my friend's girlfriend, daughter of somebody like mega famous, like super. Everybody would know. I'm not gonna reveal the name, but her mother was starting a brand, and we asked, "How's it going?" And she's like, "It's not going well." I'm like, "How come?" She's like, "No one has copied it yet."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. Why do you say that?" She's like, "Well, a sign of true success is when you start getting copied."
100%.
And if you look at also another, obsessed individual, Virgil Abloh, in a way he like really leaned into that in terms of the whole culture of even himself doing that in regards to replicating and copying things, and of course innovating and creating.
Well, his whole thing was, sorry to interrupt
Yeah,
you.
go of
His whole
course.
thing was like the 3% rule, right? It's like take something in culture, take this shoe and just change 3% of it. It's that's basically what he did, and he became one of the greatest fashion icons ever.
Do you apply that to your work at all? Like, who do you get inspired by? Because I'm sure there's some work that you lean into to get inspiration from.
For me, it's always like you have to go and look where no one else is looking, and that's where you get really unique ideas. And so it just can't be taught, right? If you're looking where everyone else is looking, you're just gonna make what everyone else makes. And so, like, I can't explain how many times I've gone into like a random bookstore in the city, taken a picture of a book title like in the back corner, and used that font in something I was making, and it made it just 1,000 times better. That you can never study anywhere, just because I like felt like turning left one day. So that's the biggest thing I'd say for inspiration, is like you have to look in the weirdest places and then put it into your thing.
Yeah, or oftentimes I think New York is one of the best cities for inspiration in terms of whether it is street signs or just random shops. And that's what I love about the city. It is an obsessed city, and a city that it has so much diversity to it. And it's just, I think the beautiful thing about creation and creativity, I think business is a big part of it, is this whole idea of remixing. And when people say copy, when people say our products, I kind of get disappointed when they copy it directly. I'm like, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice by just doing an exact copy. But if you remix it and make it better, I think that's a way to evolve, whether it be culture or something that you've done. And of course, I'm sure there's part of that you do, but also people do that with your work. Because I see a lot of people, including us, even I even told my team, I'm like, guys, just take Zach's best post, repurpose it, boom, you're gonna get likes. But in terms of like, you still give credit,
Of course,
right?
some people don't. It's whatever.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I told my team, hey, give credit.
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
no,
like,
you're good.
but some people won't,
The
right?
biggest guys don't.
Yeah, I'm
So-
sure even Jay Shetty probably like copied you. So, but at the same time, it should be in a way to put some fire in you to keep that going. Yeah.
Well, one of my biggest goals this year was video content. Like I didn't really post my face online until like 4 months ago,
Mm.
or 5 months ago. That to me completely changed my message, my life. I feel like I had this trust behind the words, right? I had this connection behind the words I was writing for years. Just adding like a face to it, just like it did something to like the link it has with people, I think. And so, for me, and I think this applies to anyone, no matter what you're building, no matter what your idea is, it's like you have to be a product of your idea. The only way obsession becomes this thing, like I genuinely want it to be one of the biggest brands, ideas, symbols in the world, and I think it will be, but it only becomes that way if I live the path myself. And so that's, but at the same time, me living it enables this idea to become 1,000x bigger than me. That's how I think of it. And so right now that's how I'm thinking of it. I need to be this example in everything I'm doing. And sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. But to me, it's super important. It's something I didn't do before, really, a few months ago.
Yeah. And are you working on the book? Are you writing a book?
Yeah, like the book is the big thing that I think if you crush a book, that's just the perfect vessel for an idea. I mean, 5-minute journals, like sort of a book, right?
Well, it's a different format.
Different
Yeah,
format.
we approached that industry like in a different way.
But you gave me incredible advice. And I still remember when we talked the first
Which
time.
one? What was it? I forgot myself. So what was the?
I remember all your advice. It's great. And you talked about how.
No, you can reveal.
I don't think you mind me saying this. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're saying how like most people who buy the 5-minute journal, they don't even use it. Is that true?
It's true. Yeah.
And it becomes just this symbol and this thing they have on their bookshelf that still makes them feel something. And that is what I think the best books are. I feel like Daily Stoic is like that. It's like a Bible that people just literally carry with them. And they'll read a page there, maybe they won't. That's what I want the book on obsession to be. And to be fair, I probably should have started it a long time ago. But like I said, I think I need to be a product of the idea. And it needs to be at the right time. But the right book for obsession will be like this Bible that people want to hold with them all the time. And yeah, I think it will be huge.
Yeah, I think it's similar to that point. It's more about creating a product that represents a lifestyle, and it goes beyond the product itself, but how it makes people feel.
Yeah.
And to any business or product, you want to stand for something that people remember you for. And I think that the reason that your thing is picking up, you picked this term of obsession, and people have been resonating with it. So have you thought about, or is it like in terms of, because with producing that volume or a piece of work, is it currently something that you're working on right now? Is it like, what's the timeline that you see? Because we also have a lot of friends in common, like Sahil Bloom.
Yeah.
He's, has a big book deal and he's gonna come out with something really nice. I think you have that same potential to create one of those kind of defining type of books. But what's your current approach? Because I think it's really great for us to gather here to get a little behind the scenes. Because I think it would be great for us in a year or two to remember, like, hey, we all gathered here at the Maxwell Social Club, and before Zach put out his book. And I think that's the cool thing about the space, right? Is getting a little preview of the ideation process. And I think that's what you're recording with your content as well. But I'm curious about yourself, if there's anything that you can potentially reveal about your thinking about how you're approaching this whole creative process.
Sure. I wasn't really working on it much. I talked to some people last year, and then just did other stuff. And then a cool editor emails me like obsessed with obsession. I thought it was spam, but I met with her, and that kind of restarted the process. The honest answer is I'm not reading any books right now.
That's good.
And I did read books obsessively. Here's like the interesting answer that might be helpful. Is all I did up until like the start of this year was read books. And so I read all different types of books, biographies, and like the typical nonfiction and self-help books. And so I think when you get into your true obsession, you kind of stop consuming everything. And yeah, when I do the book, like a huge part of it's going to be research and reading different books. But right now I'm not really reading much. So like here's the interesting context. Like I said, for years, all I did was read books and listen to podcasts all day. I'm sure some of you are like that. You just always have information coming in. But when I think you're in like a true obsession arc, a true obsession mode, you kind of stop consuming everything. You stop consuming podcasts. You stop looking at other people's social medias. And it's just, that's how you know you're doing what you're doing. To give you an actual answer though, I'm reading this one book. It's called On Disney. It's just like this, like I said, unique inspiration. Like probably no one's heard of this book. It's like by this French author. And it's just like breaking down Disney's like genius. He's like my biggest like. I talk about the obsessed, like these iconic creators: Walt Disney, Arnold, Steve Jobs, and Disney for me is number one. So yeah, I'm reading that, like trying to find weird books on these guys that most people haven't heard of. Like Founders Podcast is great. I was so obsessed with that podcast, and a lot of his books are ancient.
Like, where are you competing? Are you competing in the red ocean where it's very competitive? And it's like, let's say in a way now creating a journal would be you'd be going in the red ocean because it's already there's a lot of journals you're competing against a lot of things versus the blue ocean is like a whole new world that you're opening up. And however, just to connect on the point that you're saying about obsession in my own experience, it does take that overall consuming part of you where you have to live in that world. And that's why a lot of times I know, for example, for myself, even with my own team, I'm like, let's say I have a product idea. For me to go into that world, I know everything's gonna stop. Meaning meetings will be ignored, friends will be ignored, like hobbies will be ignored. Because in order for me to truly go into that world, I have to go deep. And sometimes in a way I'm afraid to go there because I've been there. I've been to the dark place.
Yes. That's a different type of dark place. It depends how dark it was.
Yeah, but
you had your obsession like era.
Yeah, obsession. But at the same time, what I'm communicating is that once you've been there, you get out of it, and you've already done well. You're like, okay, I'm good. You don't want to go there because it's a very all-consuming type of world, and it seems like you're making it fun. Like you're in a way you're playing with it. You're enjoying.
Also with the future community, I feel like one of the things that you shared recently, which really resonated, was something to the effect of like, in 2024, like put a camera in front of your face and just tell the truth. And to me, that's like authenticity, which is maybe the same thing as obsession from your point of view. And I actually recently watched that Ralph Lauren documentary, which is like insane. And I think everyone knows Ralph Lauren, but like he is that brand. And when you see it from that point of view, how obsessed he is about that work, the question is really about like around obsession or authenticity, and like what is that, and why are we so drawn to it? Like what it almost seems like we now have like influencers and personalities, but we're drawn to these people because of something that they are, I guess, something that they represent. And it seems like now more than ever, we're like craving for that or desiring to have like authenticity. And so I don't know, what is that, and why are we so drawn to it?
I actually asked this question on Twitter the other day. I said, what are examples of people going extremely viral while also being extremely authentic? And there were like no answers. Because
Really?
I mean, think about it. I think it's hard. It's there, but a lot of times I think the behaviors that enable virality are the opposite of authenticity. You're like playing this game on the algorithm, or you're doing some act. But there are these ridiculous outliers who are just this pinnacle, this stream of authenticity, like Sam Sulek is an example. This guy Davis Clark on Instagram is an example, and I just think it's incredibly rare that someone looks at a camera and shows you who they are, and you look at the creators at the top, they have this combination of greatness on one polar side matched with ridiculous authenticity and like humility. Someone who comes to mind is like Chris Bumstead. You ever seen him? He's like one of the best bodybuilders in the world, and is just stocky. He's just the most humble guy. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think that's what people are craving now. And I think as we can talk about the future, like with all the stuff with AI, these algorithms are about to just get destroyed with stuff. And it's like the only way I think for people to care about you or what you're doing is to have some type of story or some IP or some person behind it. And so that's part of why I'm trying to do it. I think it's everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I think to answer to your question is overall we as humans relate to humanity. And I think this is what also makes New York such a great city. Every time I come here, even today, I just came and I said to Zach, I'm just gonna walk around the city. I went to Washington Square and just sat and just watched people. Because like the humans of New York is like a real thing. That's why I think it resonates so much because there's so many characters here. It's like, and it's people are more authentic. And the city in a way, because it's so dense, it breeds that authenticity to a certain degree, to an extreme sometimes. However, when we're looking at the online space, there is this overall um, people are playing it safe because of the way the education system really conditioned many of us to be. And there was a great little, I don't know if it was a real or not, this video, at least it was viral in my algorithm in my world, where professor said for the final, well, you can dance in front of the whole class for 15 or 30 seconds or write a 15,000 word paper. And there was only one person that decided to dance in front of the whole lecture hall, and everybody else wrote a 15,000 paper because most people are afraid to put themselves out there, especially in that vulnerable way, and be authentic, maybe with your funny dance or whatever it may be. And it shows really more of the, especially by the time we're in university, how we've been conditioned to really follow and to not stand out. And I think overall, still in the U.S., people are more confident and they are more willing to stand out, especially New Yorkers. However, around the world, especially in Asia or in other places, there's a lot of conformity. And at the same time, this is the strength of this country, is this more authenticity and being able to say what you think and be out there and show up. I think still, out of all places in the world, this is why still America has the most innovation when it comes to a lot of the things that are going on. So I would really kind of connect to that. And yeah, so one of the other things I really want to touch upon is this point of authenticity is a lot of people don't know is that we're kind of like early YouTubers. So from 2010 to 2015, I had a different business, it was a beauty business called Luxy Hair. And me and my wife at that time had this huge following. So that channel from 2010 to 2015 got over 500 million views, 3+ million subscribers, and we're just like normal people. So I was like, wow, like this is pretty crazy to have this amount of reach. And I always think about myself like I'm a regular person. So like, what are we doing here that is connecting with people? And I reverse engineered of what made us successful and what is that formula for content creation. And I still believe it applies today. I think we might have discussed it with you as well. I call this formula QVCA because the biggest shopping network in the world is QVC. But it's very, I think, like outdated. I think today's technology, like TikTok, Instagram, especially with TikTok shops coming live. We were just talking to somebody today about just the power of these social media tools to be as shopping networks. And in regards to content creation, that can be that. So this formula is called QVCA, and you can apply this little nugget that you can take away if you are content creators or you want to build content for your company. That I believe is still valid today. So Q stands for quality, but at the same time, when I speak about quality, I think a lot of people obsess about, hey, I need to be a perfectionist. I need this professional microphone. I need this camera, and they never start. However, I believe in today's society is, with your just the phones that we all have with us. Where was my phone? Yeah, my phone's here. Most of us can be enabled with this technology itself to make content as quality that is good enough to be able to publish. So as long as people can see you, hear you, that's good enough quality. In terms of, I don't know if anybody knows Ty Lopez here in my garage. So Ty is a friend, and I knew Ty Lopez before he became Ty Lopez on YouTube. And I told Ty, I'm like, Ty, you're such a character, you should go online. And he's like, dude, like, I don't want to hire a person. I'm like, just do like this. And that's exactly what he did. So that's why when you see those earlier videos, he just did it with his phone. And it just speaks to the power that you don't need to overthink quality. That just, say, Sulik, that you said, the bodybuilder, right?
He started with the shittiest quality you can imagine. And for context too, like I said, I've been doing video like hard for like 4 or 5 months. My two best videos on Instagram. My best video on Instagram is me talking on a run, just like shitty quality. You can't even hear me really. My best one on YouTube is the worst iPhone quality ever. And so it's true.
Yeah, so quality, like I'm saying, just go in the middle. People should see you, hear you, but don't think you need professional cameras or super crazy microphones. Just start, just do it. The second Q, value. V is for value. So overall, you always have to be thinking about how does this content delivering value to somebody else. I always speak about that your content is not about you. And that's why I think it can actually become easier creating content is when you start being more selfless and thinking, oh my God, people are judging me. People are just thinking about themselves. And if you actually can start thinking about people as well and what value can you deliver to them, that's when your, I think, content can really start resonating. However, the last 2 points in the QVC, I think, are the most important. I think that's where most creators fail. And that is C stands for consistency. I think this is the reason why your content really hits because you're consistent. You're showing up and people know that, for example, there's, a Zach Poker post coming every day or maybe a video every week. But there's a consistency where people know to show up. And of course, it helps the algorithms because the algorithms also really treat you better if you are showing up consistently because that's what they need. And they'll value that. But it really ties into our behavior as people is that we want people who show up consistently to us as well. And the last one, this is why I'm kind of bringing it up and connecting to all this. The most important element in all of this is so quality, value, consistency, and A is authenticity. And I believe when you are able to really bring that, that's when people really resonate with you. And I think that's the reason why, let's say, Gary Vaynerchuk has been able to succeed for so long because Gary is Gary. And that's who he is. Or now you showing up yourself as well in this more vulnerable, authentic way and not trying to act like you're this, successful person, but more like you're on your journey. And taking people on your journey and being authentic and vulnerable in your journey is actually way more attractive than you thinking like you're a know-it-all and you have it all figured out.
And the paradox, I think, is that the more you try to be authentic sometimes, the less you are. Like, I feel like I started standing out a lot more when I almost stopped thinking about it. And not that I'm like this character yet, but I feel like I kind of am becoming one with like shaved head, like, muscular guy running, like, and it's like Hormozi's like that. It's like Hormozi is this very unique character with like the beard and everything, but he never tried to do it. He just like was himself completely, and you just when you actually are like I just needed to shave my head in the fall because I needed to. It wasn't like a thing that I did to look a certain way, but it's becoming like kind of my thing, and yeah, it's very important, and
it needs, and then you can get paid for it. And I really believe another way to look at obsession is really being able to look at what is my Ikigai. This is a kind of Japanese term, and looking into your work because if you're good at it, in a way it will feel effortless, and it will allow you to really play that infinite game. Because and that's another term by Simon Sinek, this whole thing of playing an infinite game. However, I think the most exciting thing that will get you excited for life, because many of us, I think, you get depressed or anxious is when you're disconnected from your core and your purpose in life. And the way to get out of it is to be, whether it be more living more obsessed life or living within alignment of your purpose or of your ikigai. And sometimes, of course, searching for that, you have to go through those seasons of trying things out and doing something that is way out there. And sometimes it means crashing things that what made you successful. For example, like I said, my first business was a beauty business. I did it because I wanted to make money. And I think that's what drives a lot of us, is to create freedom and success in our lives. However, being successful in it, and I could have taken it way further, made way more money. However, I listened to the voice inside and I said, hey, if I take this further, I'm just gonna dig myself a deeper hole into doing something that I'm not actually aligned with. And of course, I have some friends who like totally burn their businesses, and like I didn't do that. I did a very more calculated exit where I was able to sell that business and then move into my more alignment business, which is intelligent change. However, looking at that time, my other business was way larger than what the 5 Minute Journal was or what intelligent change was. However, I made the decision to go more with my heart and my alignment and my purpose versus strictly just following the money. And I was just recently with last few days with somebody who was one of the top bankers at, I think, Morgan Stanley. He was working on the Twitter deal, and he told me he was the one who told Elon to go with the 54.20 price, infamously. For that, it's like Elon liked it and he took it. But he was one of the top bankers working on the biggest deals, and now he's building a retreat center to help people on that journey. And he's like, yeah, like he's like, especially now, he's like, in terms of the next decade with AI and all these deals, like being a banker would be even more awesome. I'll make even more money because there's gonna be so many incredible things happening, and it being successful and in power can feed your ego as well. However, you don't want to disconnect with that true passion and fire within you. And the most obsessed individuals, the most alive individuals, are the ones who are in alignment with their ikigai and their purpose in life. And that's what I really want to encourage, I think, all of us in this room to do, including myself. And it is great, and I think that's why people like following your journey, including everyone who has gathered here tonight, because you putting yourself out there and living that kind of that artist journey is a beautiful thing to follow.
Thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, is there any other questions? Yeah. Go.
First of all, I really like the conversation on obsession and then Ikigai, because I think that they could be similar, but at the same time they are quite different. I think Ikigai gives you more satisfaction at the point in time. But the question is whether by being at Ikigai, basically doing things that you like, that make you money and helping the world, whether you're reaching your full potential. While with obsession, the main metaphor is that's kind of evolving from the hustle culture to more obsession culture, is that you are pushing yourself to actually be better, today that versus yesterday. So I think they're similar but at the same time different, and I feel like they're both examples of those two things. Also, I've never expected anyone to ever make sense out of the 15-second video that I saw on TikTok about the professor making people dance. So I like the interpretation of like this is showing people that people are afraid of, I guess, public speaking or afraid of being out there, and that just like shows that
At those levels yet. However, the differentiating factor that I see in the people who reach that status is simply just belief that they kind of they should have it and we should go there. And so that's I think the interesting thing about really igniting and sparking that fire within you. And some of us have been blessed to have parents who really ignited that fire, who believed in us. Some of us may not have had that pleasure, and we may have that very critical voice of our teachers or our parents telling us we're not good enough. And this is why I also believe, in terms of what you were saying about building in a way it can be even virtual board of directors or board of inspiration. And that's how I came up. I lost my father when I was 17. I didn't really have a father figure. However, the people that helped me was like, for example, listening to Tony Robbins and Tony Robbins tapes, because it was like, wow, like I never, there's somebody who believes in me and my ability. And that's why I want to kind of encourage all of us here in the room today, is that even if you may not have an inspiring circle around you, well, cultivate that if you can. If you can't have that yet, cultivate it virtually. Especially now, there's a plethora of incredible people, including you, Zach. I think that's why many of us follow your work, because it's just a daily reminder to spark and keep our journey going. Thank you for seeing that and acknowledging that, and seeing how we can kind of keep that all going. Let's take one more question, probably break for the whatever pizza that smell that we have here.
Just curious, do you guys have a team member that isn't a founder, that is on the cusp of being as obsessed with building and growing the company? And then as the founder and the leader, how do you cultivate that and channel that energy into being in the direction that it's like your vision? To give you context, I own a men's cooking brand. We're 2 years old. I just hired my first 2 employees, and they're as obsessed, and they're only 3 months in, and they're as obsessed as me. But obviously, like, it's the company that I see the direction, and the reason why we're growing and we're getting to that spot is because of the way that, like you said, it's like an embrace personality and kind of vision of like what I'm building. But how can you kind of channel that, or if you've had experience with like those people, because it's still very new. But I'm just trying to like create. I don't know how to describe it.
No, I totally get it. I can riff off.
It's kind of crazy, but it's like.
No. Yeah, I think you've exactly explained how you do that. I think number one, what I'm seeing more and more is the importance of you as a leader and the energy that you show up with. And I can see how, once again, going back to that example that we're speaking about, Doa, it's about that, that one person dancing and everybody else just writing 15,000 word essays, is that those are leaders. Be able to stand out and to cultivate that energy. And people, potentially, maybe next time they'll be inspired and they may want to dance as well. And one of my favorite books of all time, and that's really inspired me on my journey, is called Linchpin by Seth Godin. And it's actually a required reading for all our staff who work for us. And the reason, and the reality is, just because I give people to read it and I said, hey, this is a required reading, it's very important because it's a sense of our culture that we're trying to create in the company, that doesn't mean everybody will get it. However, those individuals who are following your leadership and your vision, because that's why they're signing up, especially those first 2 to 10 employees, they're there for you. And you're selling them on that vision that you have of the company, what you're creating, and you're feeding them that energy. To keep that going, you have to, like I said, in this case, is encourage that type of linchpin behavior. And the reason I give it out as a required reading, because we're a fairly small company. So my company right now is only 15 staff. And in smaller team sizes, it can be hard for people because there isn't a clear hierarchy of their of how they're going to progress within the company. The good thing that big corporations have, especially companies, let's say like P&G, is they have clear hierarchy. They know, you'll have a review every year. You have a way to get promoted, to grow in your career. But when you're in a small startup, when there's 2 staff, there's no direction at all of where you're going to go. And I found that the Linchpin book and the whole methodology is more about, I was like, hey, this is actually very exciting that it's so flat. Meaning you as an individual have the power to create and become anything that you want to be. And there's not many, and that's the reason why those individuals will choose to work for your company versus a big corporation. Because in a big corporation, yes, there's clear hierarchy, but it's very siloed and you can't really jump levels too far. However, in a smaller company like yours, they have the ability to become CFO if they want to be, or to become chief growth officer. And I'm sure even an example of like of Dovas here, who was a lifer at HelloFresh. When you started, how many people were there?
20 in 1 month.
Okay, like 20 people, right? But it's very early. But because it's so small, you're probably able to still shape your career more than the people who came in after there was 100 staff in the business. And that is, I think, really the biggest opportunity that you have as an entrepreneur as well to also sell the team on, is the ability to cultivate their drive. And if for my business, I have those people. For example, my creative director, Sarah, she's now they're creating products without me, which is like incredible. And I think as a founder, you have to spend that quality time with them. And to this day, me and Sarah have probably an hour one-on-one bi-weekly where we just like a lot of times it's just sharing ideas, and she's just trying to get inside my head and allowing that space. And I always encourage my staff, like, hey, if you ever want to schedule a call with me, please do. Most people don't take me up on it. The surprising thing, but the employees that do, and you show up for them, and you let them kind of feed off your energy, they'll be the ones that will grow the most, and the ones you want to kind of keep close to, that I found in my and the 9-to-5ers, they'll be 9-to-5ers, but you don't want to feed those. You want to feed the people who are gravitating towards you, like be the light, and let them come to you. I don't know if you want to add anything to that at all.
One thing that's been helpful for me, I've never had a huge team, but I've worked with more and more creatives over the last year, is like the best creatives have been following me or just for a while, or they just resonate with my message so much that I feel like it's looking for someone who takes your ideas and goes and builds their own stuff with it. Like I talk about the world building, and I'll work with some people, and they're just playing with they're using my ideas, they're using my things. Then I'll work with others, and they'll go and do this whole other thing that I would have never thought of. And I think those are the people you want. Yeah, he's done more with me.
Yeah,
bigger teams.
but just another thing, something, just another note, like on observing. I had the pleasure of spending some pretty good time with Richard Branson. Like we were hiking in Bhutan in the fall, and what I've learned from just my interactions with him is his superpower is ability to trust people and give people that, as you said, to give people that freedom to make their own way and trust them. And usually the true leaders and linchpins, they rise to the top. They'll do it. And if you give them an opportunity and they don't, they just don't. And you see it very quickly.
And I just wanted to add a little on this, because I guess analyzing my life, I'm essentially someone that's hired to be obsessed for them. I always wanted to leave, and every time I tried to leave, they'd say like, what do you want to do? And then give me that exact opportunity, and that was several times over those 10 years. But the first question that they asked me in the interview,
Yeah.
the first question that they asked me, like before like even like chit chat or anything, said, what's the most entrepreneurial thing you've ever done? And I was straight out of college, right? So like what you could expect. And I happened to have my own dance studio when I was 17 back in Lithuania. Like the most random thing to do. But then that single question and answer actually triggered what now being I think in the US are actually the longest tenured employee out of like 10,000 people. So kind of looking back and like in your team being pretty small, like that single question on like what's the most entrepreneurial thing you've ever done, and kind of trying to understand like what is your passion, like what are you motivated by, and kind of giving you those incentives as opposed to like more money or like better title, which could also be a thing. Someone who's like really bright and really young wants to have a nice title and not really care about the pay, right? So you just understand like what motivates different people, and then trying to understand the track record of them actually not following the path, but having something that was leading them astray in a good. That could be a astray in a good.
Cool. Well, I think we'll wrap up this portion. Let's move on to just like I said, I think there's some pizza that Kyle got for us, and we can just hang out and just talk and continue the conversation. But overall, I want to thank you all for coming here tonight and be part of this evening in New York on a Sunday. And looking forward to chatting with all of you. Like I said, feel free to come up to me or Zach, ask us any other questions personally. And we're very grateful for Kyle hosting us here at Maxwell. And looking forward to being back and as well chatting with all of you. And also, hopefully this night encourages and inspires you to create your own art, because I think that's what we'd all love to see, and that's why we're doing this. So Zach is to really be able to share that. Zach, any last words?
That's it. Thank you for coming, guys. I really appreciate it. I was awesome.
Right, so just some housekeeping things, guys. So we've got pizzas out the back there.